Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Dak Chats. My name is Dak, and welcome back to another episode of Dak Chats. It's a really exciting night. Eviction night's always, my favorite night of the week. It's my favorite night to do these streams because we get to recap, everything that went down this week and strategize about next week and what we think is going to happen and all that fun stuff. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we're gonna get right through this. If you're just now watching, if this is your first time watching, go ahead and drop any questions you have in the comment section and in the live chat, and we will definitely hop in and answer those at the end of the stream. Hi, Marine. Yeah, Team Turner, aka the Muffin Man. Yep, unfortunately we didn't get to see any of that tonight. But we'll cover that towards the end for those that may have missed a little bit of the Muffin Gate 2022. Thanks for joining in, Marine. So yeah, man, it was a really fun episode. I'm getting more and more of a old school BB feel watching this show, and yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. And again, I'm not sure what it is, but I'm just having a lot of fun, watching this season. It feels so old school compared to some of the other stuff we've had. I think I don't know if it's that production's putting in a little bit less effort, but it seems like the less effort they put on, like, in the show, the less they're actually putting into, like, the televised portion of it. Whereas, when they're not focusing that much and they just let the gameplay happen, it's really an enjoyable experience, at least in my opinion. So yeah, I'm having a blast. So yeah, let's just jump into the episode. Where do we start? We start with Daniel. We see that he said he wanted to change the nominations because Monty basically told him not to. We talked about last night. This basically was Daniel and Nicole trying to do reverse psychology on Monty and ended up doing it on themselves. And so he puts Nicole up. Daniel's talking to Kyle, and he pegs every single person in the phrase that he figures out every person in the Leftovers Alliance besides Kyle. And we kind of get a little bit of foreshadowing of that later after the eviction. And I kind of turned to my wife, made a comment about that too when they were listening off the Leftovers Alliance members. But he gets everyone except for Kyle. They, for some reason, just do not believe that Kyle is involved in this, and they could not figure out who that seventh person was. They weren't really looking for a seventh. They just saw that those six were together, those three groups of three, or three groups of two, and kind of pinned it together that way. But they just couldn't wrap their heads around that he might be a part of it. So Daniel talks about, I feel like we have the numbers to keep Nicole. He says we have Indy, Alyssa, and Jasmine, and then that would give them, he can pull Terrence in. Kyle's on their side. He's his festy bestie, so obviously he's going to vote with him. So he says, okay, well, I got those four. We add myself, which is 5, and then I can pull Terrence in as well, and that makes 6. So we have the votes. And, that's not entirely an inaccurate idea. I mean, it wasn't impossible that he couldn't have got those votes. Obviously, besides Kyle, we knew Kyle was never going to go for it. So in the end, it didn't matter. Even if it was a 5-5, Monty's going to send Nicole out. So all but Kyle, all the other votes he listed off, he still didn't have, but he could have potentially obtained. Regardless, it's just another example of, Nicole's over here talking, I was a cop for 10 years. I was a detective, and she's talking about how good she is. And it's one thing too, like if she came in and she just, she talked a big game about being a cop as every other police officer we've had does. But even then, if she hadn't constantly been being like, this training has made me skilled in this area and I'm doing so good and I have such a good read on everyone and I know when people are lying, like if she wasn't hyping herself up constantly, in this house, I wouldn't really like, I wouldn't pick on her as much, right? Because it's like, yeah, you did that, and you did that for 10 years, and you do something, you're in a career for that long. Some of that stuff is going to stick with you for a long time, but it's also been like 13, 15 years since she's actually been a cop. So, if she had talked about having that past and that history and how she was going to adapt that, but then came into the house and wasn't being super arrogant and wasn't acting like, oh yeah, like I got this in the bag, everyone's an idiot compared to me, and I have everyone in my back pocket, like that's, regardless of whether or not she was an officer or not, that to me is what's like, that's just the officer thing is just the cherry on top. Maybe more than the cherry, maybe the whipped cream, right? But the fact that she's continuing to be like, I have all these people in my back pocket. I don't care what anyone says. I know how to spot a liar. These people are lying to my face. And she's only saying that when they're being honest. It wasn't until people started being somewhat honest. Now, whether they were like deeply being truthful because they were misrepresenting their interpretations, right? I mean, they didn't have the interpretation that they were on Daniel and Nicole's side, but what they were actually talking about and what they were saying was true. Whereas every other time they were actually being honest with them. We've talked about it a million times. Joseph kept trying to work with them, and they did not trust him. The moment he flipped on them and joined an alliance that was directly created to go against them, that's when they started believing this stuff. So, or believing Joseph. So that's why for me it's just so mind-boggling that they're like, she's so intensely like, I'm a former cop, and that's given me all my skills, and here I am, and all these people, they think they're fooling me. They think that they're pulling one over on me. Well, they don't even know that I'm a cop. They have no idea all these skills that I possess, and it's like, she just has no self-awareness, none. And I don't like putting strict labels on people of this sorts, but I won't put a label on her, but at least a lot of just what we're getting in the diary room, let alone what she's actually saying to other house guests on the feeds, does sound very narcissistic. And so that's why it's so difficult to not kind of poke at her a little bit for it, because she is hyping herself up. And that's the insanity of all this is how wrong they have it. And especially her with as much as she's been just really going for it. So yeah, that's the first rant of the night. Kyle talks about how he mentions that the leftovers were blindsided, because Daniel did change his mind last minute. And again, it was a very, pretty much last minute thing where there had been kind of a few seeds planted the night before, but pretty much all of it was that morning. Daniel just kind of flipped because Monty had told him something that made it. And again, he pops up tonight and he's like, Daniel came at us and said that he wanted me to keep noms the same. So that's why I did it. And he's talking about Nicole, and he's like, they're gonna flip the vote and they're gonna get her out, and he's like, this is exactly why I wanted to use it. It's like, you're so short-minded, and you're so like that sentence sounds ridiculous, right? And I'm not quoting to the T, but it was somewhere in that ballpark where he's like, they're all coming after Nicole. They're all going to vote Nicole out. This is exactly why I didn't want to use a veto, because I knew that Monty was feeding me was crap, right? And I knew that this was going to happen. Well, then if you knew this was going to happen, why'd you do it, right? You're so tunnel vision, because they're thinking in the moment, we need to pull Alyssa and Indy off because we need those numbers, but they're not going to make it far enough where their numbers are going to matter because she's going to leave. And we saw the culmination of that tonight. It's again, someone that is as big of a super fan as Daniel is should know better. And it's again, you get into this house, it messes with any strategy. And that's one thing that I have thought about. If I was ever in there, people say, what's your strategy? I'm not going in with one, because it doesn't matter what your strategy is. these twists throw that out the window. The moment you get in there and start interacting with people, it throws any idea you have out the window. So the only thing you can do, in my opinion, the only strategy you can have is work on honing your skills that are going to take you to the end. And you can't go in with a specific plan. You might be able to try and have some idea, but in the end, nothing's going to stick. And we've seen it time and time again. And it's disappointing seeing someone as just oblivious as him to all of it. But it's just so frustrating. It's just so frustrating that people, like, there's fans that have been watching the show forever that are trying to get on year after year after year. And then you get people like this who claims to be, like, to know so much, be so excited to get in, and then just be such a dumpster fire of a mess. It's ridiculous. Fix my chair again. This is going to be the new theme of the stream. It's my chair constantly sinking on me. Let's sit here. My mouth's getting dry. I talk too much. I do. I guess that's the point of this, though, right? Taylor is very upset. Now, I didn't catch right after the renoms on Monday, and I knew that who went up. But like I mentioned yesterday, I kind of I wasn't keeping up as much the last few days since it, because I really didn't see another alternative as to how the week was going to play out. And so I was being mindful and just kind of touching in every once in a while, but I wasn't keeping up a lot. Taylor's reaction did actually kind of throw me off guard watching the episode. I didn't expect her to be that upset. Now, I knew that she was a little upset, and the whole house was, because none of them were expecting. Monty wasn't expecting to put them up in that moment. Daniel just kind of made that happen. Kyle was very happy about it, and he was left to make that decision. So I do get it, but it wasn't until fairly recently before that the plan was for her to go up. So, maybe that's what her reaction would have been the whole time, just feeling the emotion of having to go back up again. I could definitely see that. But it was a little bit surprising to me. But, she's upset. She said she's shaking. She's so upset, which, I completely get. And but she says, I have faith in my alliance. That's all I can do, is I can have faith in them and trust that they're going to keep me safe and have my back. We go to Nicole, and Nicole says, I know it's strange being on the block, but I'm feeling actually very euphoric right now. She says that her BS meter is going off, and that she can tell that Monty is coming for her, but he doesn't have the votes. He thinks he has the votes. That's why he tried to convince Daniel to leave Indy and Alyssa up, so that way they could take out one of our numbers, and he'd be able to keep Taylor, right? Because he's BFFs with Taylor now, right? So she's like, he doesn't have the votes. Me and Taylor are up. We're gonna send Taylor packing. Daniel, I don't even know. I can't keep track of my notes. It said Daily. I think I meant Daniel. Is talking to. Oh yeah, Daniel. He was talking to Alyssa and Indy, and he talks about how who was it that. I completely lost my notes in there, but basically he's talking about how, Michael's working with the other side. He's 100% with them, and they're behind everything that's going on right now. And just really, you start to see the snowball of Daniel's downcline. I'm starting to really see. To be honest, it's kind of giving me Audrey vibes, and I'm wondering if that's what we are to expect the rest of the week. Audrey from season 17, right? Because I don't feel like Daniel's going to gun for the HOH, because I don't feel like he has any desire to be there anymore. I don't think he'll quit. At least I hope not. Someone that's going to claim to be as big of a fan as he is, I hope he wouldn't disrespect the game by just walking out and not seeing it through, and ruining the schedule and everything else. But you never know. I mean, that could happen. But I'm wondering if that's what we're going to end up seeing, at least a Audrey style type thing, because I don't, like I said, I don't feel like he's going to gun for the HOH. I feel like he's going to be of the mindset that no matter what I do, even if I get someone on the other side out, it doesn't matter because no one's going to work with me. Now, is that true? Yeah, probably. I don't, besides Terrence, maybe he could pull in Indy, but he really doesn't have a whole lot of numbers, or potential numbers, really. I mean, he really doesn't have anything. So I could see that. Now, is that the mindset you should have? No, because literally everything changes, right? We're sitting here thinking right now, who could he get? And we're like, well, we don't know. But something could change tonight that changes that. If the leftovers, for instance, they could make any mention of how they're kind of nervous about Kyle and Alyssa, and if he's tight enough with Alyssa right now, he might go to Daniel and say, Daniel, you, me, Alyssa, Terrence, we can pull Indy back in, Jasmine back in. They could flip that. So I don't think we're going to have an eventful week. I don't think that he's going to gun for it because I think he's too much in his own feelings, and he's not going to be able to see what potential is there. But I do think that there is potential for sure, for something to change. And, whether or not it's likely to happen, I don't think it is, but there's always that chance. Kyle mentions that he talks to the leftovers, and he's trying to explain because Joseph kind of comes in and he's like, what happened, right? Like what the heck happened? And he basically tells him that Daniel changed it last minute. He thinks that they have the votes to keep Nicole, and he didn't trust Monty when Monty told him you don't have the votes. Again, it's just the more I think about it, the more stupid it sounds how they came to this conclusion. And Joseph says that they have the votes to keep Taylor. He's not worried about it. Nicole, we go to Nicole, and she's talking to Alyssa, Jasmine, and Indy. And as soon as we see them in that room, I just look over and I'm like, she's going to tell him about her being a cop. And I don't know why, but something about Nicole gives me a similar vibe to Joey from season 16. Because Joey was very, pumped up. Let's go. Let's start this thing. Let's start an all-women's alliance. But she went super hard right away and burned out super quick and got taken out super quick because she was doing too much too quick. And I kind of feel like similar things been happening with Nicole, where her decline just took a little bit longer for it to get there. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, I was getting a lot of that just kind of reminded me of season 16 with the whole Frankie telling everyone about who his sister is. And that just reminded me of that more. But yeah, she pulls them all in and she tells them, I have all your backs. And, she tells them I used to be a cop. I was a police officer for 10 years. I was a detective. And Jasmine, she says, I need to keep Nicole. She's a whole detective. And I need to keep Nicole, and I need to have her on my side, right? I need to have her on my side. That's what Jasmine says. And again, Indy says, well, thank God I need you. I need your help because I have no idea how to figure out this game. Like, oh God, like that's just so frustrating to hear. Like, and I know they're somewhat like jokingly saying that, but it's so frustrating to hear people on the show that are like, you're in, what is this, the 4th week now? You're in week 4, and you're already at this point, and you're like, oh, I don't even know how to play this guy. Like, I don't know, nothing's going on. Like, I need you to help figure out the game for me and play it for me so I can get, like, what do you think? Like, if you, obviously, you don't think you have a shot to win, if you're already in week 4 and you're needing someone else to help you figure out how to get to the end, right? You should be figuring that out for yourself. And it's just frustrating watching that. Both of them are saying that. Daniel and Nicole, we skip to them in the bedroom, and they are, I said in my notes, they are clowning it up, talking about how the rest of the house are clowns, and they really think that they can pull the wool over their eyes. And you know, I listen to the updates every morning, so even if I'm not watching the feeds, I'm still getting tuned in and keyed in a little bit. But I missed the exact point where Nicole, like, I kind of have an idea, but I missed the exact point where she was basically like, oh crap, I'm screwed. But it's so, I think it goes right along with what I was saying yesterday, that literally you have these people that are believing their own lies. They are convincing themselves of this, and subconsciously they knew from the beginning they didn't have it. They just tried to throw a Hail Mary and hope that it worked. And they feel like if they have enough confidence in themselves and believe in it enough, that they can manifest it into existence. And, you know, they're trying not to jinx themselves by calling it what it really is, but it's just so delusional. And they really think that, you know, they have the votes going in, right? And it's, you know, it's crazy. And so they're over there and they're talking about how, you know, obviously they have the votes, how stupid the rest of the house is, you know, Taylor's going to be out, yada, yada. And again, it's just, it's poetic justice for everything that's going on. We get to another great Kyle and Alyssa segment, and these aren't these fun? So Kyle says it's day 20 something in the Big Brother house, and he's going crazy in the house, and he just can't help himself around Alyssa because, in her words, or in his words, not mine. In his words, he says, she's just so hot, and I just can't take it anymore. I'm going to have to start taking cold showers. And then he starts taking a long time in the showers, and everyone's like, hurry up, dude, get out of the shower. And he's like, football, basketball, masculine stuff. Oh, and he's trying to just think of anything else other than what he's thinking of now. And I don't need to say what he's thinking of now because you all already know what he's thinking and is trying to not give in to the temptation. Kyle says that he still wants to be careful. He wants to make sure that they don't look like they're in a showmance so no one targets them. And then is basically, as he's been saying the whole time, that he likes Alyssa. We can pursue something after the show's over, but right now I'm focused on my game, right? And I also put in my notes, this is whenever we see Joseph not like shutting the door, not shutting it, do the blinds. I love Joseph. Joseph is my favorite personality in the house right now. Not my favorite player necessarily, but my favorite personality. I love watching this guy interact. I love watching him talk to everyone. Like, he is hilarious. He is a super nice, genuine guy from you know, for the most part. Again, there's been, everyone in this house has had a few hiccups here and there, but he really is just a really nice guy, and a really funny guy from at least from what I've seen. And I'm unapologetically a Joseph stan. Just him on his own, not any showmance. No matter who it's with, he can get into showmance with anyone. I don't care, but I'm a Joseph stan. Alyssa says that she's been trying to get Kyle to make the move, but she just might have to make the first move herself. And we see that the two of them are in one of the bedrooms with Daniel, and he's asleep, or at least they think he's asleep. They're not entirely sure, but they're gonna risk it for the biscuit anyway. Or Kyle is, and he's just gonna go for it, and he does, and they kiss, and Alyssa says, "What can I say? I'm just a girl, and I'm in love." And it's been like a month, and you guys are like, how old is Alyssa? I can't remember. I was gonna look it up earlier, but I forgot. Because I was like, he's 30 or 29. He's 29 or 30. How old is she? Like, I'm trying to, because they seem very similar in age, but they're both close to 30s, or at least she's mid-20s, close to 30s. And you've been with this guy for a month, and you're already in love with him. It's I guess that's a shorter time than most of the Bachelor contestants. They usually fall in love within like the first 72 hours. So, but we go from there, and then we come back and we see that Joe talks about how, if the rest of the house sees another Amira type blindside, that they're going to start putting the pieces together. And so Monty says, we need to get more votes to keep Taylor, to get rid of Nicole. Well, we got to do it without, he worded it a different way, but basically we got to do it without making it look like there was an alliance formed that made this decision before they approached everyone else. He talks to Jasmine, and he starts talking to her about everything that had gone on with Nicole, and all that stuff. Did I skip a part? But yeah, he basically, where did I go here? Yeah. He talks to Jasmine and basically is going over everything that him and Nicole had discussed, and starts saying that, look, if she came to me and basically said that she's all on my side, she's got my back, and she's coming after the girls, she wins HOH. She lists all these people that she won't come for, and who does that leave left? Leaves you, Turner, Indy, and Alyssa, right? And Jasmine is surprised, because he's having this conversation with Nicole, and he's basically like, I'm giving you an opportunity to tell me what's going on, right? Where do your allegiances lie? What are your plans? Give me something to use to save you. Give me a reason to save you. You're not going to, but at least try, right? And she knows, again, it's just denial. She knows that she's in a super tough spot, and she just can't face reality. She can't be humble enough to realize what position she's in and what she needs to do to get out of it. And it's very frustrating to watch, because it's like, it's nice as someone that's wanting to see her out, but just watching solely as the player, you have an opportunity to at least try. Again, they can try. It probably won't work. They're probably not going to get the numbers. They can try, and they're just completely throwing in the towel. And it's just ridiculous. Jasmine says that, she wants to keep Nicole, but she doesn't know that she can go against the house, because she knows the house is probably going to vote Nicole out, and she can't be on the other side of that again like she was last week. She goes and talks to Indy and Alyssa, I believe, and she says that she just can't trust Nicole. And she kind of mentions, it seems like she mentioned something like, she's a cop and she's been an investigator. She knows how to do this stuff. This is what she does, and we just can't trust her. Indy says, well, if Taylor has been on the block like 3 times now, she survived both the other times. If she survives again tonight, we can't trust her. She's going to go all the way to the end, and she's going to win this game. If we let her survive tonight, she's going to win. It's, again, they're so focused on that, and Indy's been one of them too. That's just is so focused on Taylor, and how, like, if you just, and I get from from the mindset that Indy tends to portray, I can get for her why she's like, oh, everyone's talking about how big of a threat she is. We got to get her out. Look at where she survived, right? But any of these people, it doesn't even take game intelligence, just regular intelligence to look at where the house is at, where she's at, and what effect Taylor has had on this whole thing. It wasn't until they put Taylor in the position that she was in for weeks that she finally flipped on them. And she could, if they worked with her, I don't think it's impossible that she couldn't flip to someone else to the other side if she felt like the girls really did want to work with her. I feel like she would be down for a girl winner. That's what she wanted initially. So if they actually attempted to try and work with her, they would have, again, potential, right? They have pushed themselves in this corner so far that they don't have a strong likelihood but you got the potential and they're not even trying. If you're not going to even try, what is the freaking point of even still being there? You're not getting paid to just, I mean, I guess they are, but still, I mean, it's just, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So anyway, we hit up, we come back for the vote. And I mentioned last week, I don't try and keep an exact tally of all the votes. I wanted to last week just because I knew it was going to be super split, and I wanted to see, basically I was trying to watch to see if Daniel and Nicole both voted for Amira to stay, so that they could flip the vote. Alyssa is 24. Okay, so she's a little bit younger than I thought she was, but still, that's yeah. But yeah, so I didn't take a whole lot of notes during this one, but I did keep a tally of everyone that voted for Nicole. I had that set, or for Nicole to stay, rather. Excuse me, I had that already typed out, ready to go. So I was getting ready for that. But before we get to the actual live vote, we have to have speeches. Speeches that mean absolutely nothing, does absolutely nothing, unless you are the outgoing person. You know you're the outgoing person, and you want to throw everyone else under the bus. And even then, most of the time, that's not even believed. So speeches don't really do a whole lot of good. But occasionally, we get a speech that makes it worth it. Nicole starts talking about how I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention. Basically, she's an asset to everyone there. And if everyone votes to keep her, then she will fight for her life. Again, you're selling why you think you should be here. That's not what they care about. You should be selling why they should keep you because of the benefit or the asset you're going to be to their game. And it's just the same repetitive thing that they always do, right? Daniel starts to cry during Nicole's speech. I don't know if anyone else caught it. I caught it. He was very emotional, and he's really sad. He's really upset. He's gonna miss his friend. But yeah, Nicole's speech was a little flat. But Taylor, she stands up, and now all week, we have been hearing, or at least since Wednesday, we've been hearing Taylor. Monday, we've been hearing Taylor talk about how, listen, I think the initial idea was she was going to say the same thing to her that Daniel said to Taylor during all that. But she's like, listen, guys, I've been working on this killer speech, and I'm just gonna let Nicole have it whenever it's time. A lot of people say that. Not a lot of people follow through. But I had confidence that Taylor was. The only line that I put in my notes from this was Taylor tells Nicole she looks so dumb. And to me, that is the only line that is important because it is the biggest way to summarize everything that has happened in these last 4 weeks. That should be on a t-shirt, and Taylor should sell that t-shirt. Nicole, you look so dumb, because it's just smacking her with it, right? You knew that you weren't going to get what you wanted out of this. You knew that if you went up, you were going to go out, and you just lied to yourself and convinced yourself so much that you could get the votes. You talk about how you had the votes, but you didn't really. You were trying to get them. You were trying to salvage what you had, and you just didn't have anything. And she was overly confident. I mean, I turned the feeds on this morning, and I watched Nicole just sitting there, eating breakfast before everyone else got up, and then Daniel gets up, and they're just sitting there, and they're just going over, what else can we do? What else can we do? What else can we do? And there's just nothing for her to do because everyone, Well, I wouldn't say everyone. I myself have had this moment before several times, and there are many super fans out there as well that have had this moment where you're thinking of, if you're in the house, what would you do? How would you get yourself out of being on the block or going home if you were on the block, or your back's up against the wall, and I always go to the moment of, okay, if I was in that position, what could I do to have my own Dan's funeral, right? Everyone wants to recreate Dan's funeral and have something that monumentous and something that game changing where you just flip the script on everyone. And I feel like Nicole went into this thinking that it doesn't matter what she does. She can get herself out of every and any situation she finds herself in. And that is just not the case. She's been portraying that. She's been going out and acting like, that's what she can do. She's been treating everything like, don't worry, I got this. Last night, she went to Indy and says basically, or Daniel basically finds out for sure that the vote's flipped. And she thinks that it's going to start trying to flip today. And so she tells Daniel, she's like, I got this, right? She goes to Indy and she's like, Indy, the house, they're gonna vote me out, and then they're gonna leave here and leave Taylor stuck here. And then Taylor, she's gonna join your group. You don't want to be stuck playing with Taylor on your team, right? And she's like, wait, what? And like Indy gets so thrown off and so confused, and she's like, okay, so you need to go like get this fixed, and you need to make sure that I stay and that I'm not voted out. She said, okay, go. And Indy's like, what the heck was that about? And she goes up to the HOH room, and Monty and some other people up there, and she's like, she just came up to me and started yelling at me and telling me that I need to flip this vote because everyone's voting for her to leave, and now I need to change this. And she's like, I don't know, like that. I'm angry, and she expressed like she was not happy about that. And Monty's like, see, this is why we need to go ahead and vote her out. And at the time, that's what convinced convinced Indy to finally bite the bullet and vote out Nicole, because she's been talking for days that it don't matter what everyone else is going to do. She's going to do what's best for her game, and that's vote independently and vote for herself and vote for her own game. And, that was finally was her switch. Now, again, today, she kind of goes back on that a little bit, starts pitching why, why everyone should keep Nicole. But that's just the type of mentality that Nicole's gone into this. She's like, it doesn't matter how far back against the wall my back is. I can talk myself out of anything and everything. And that's just simply, that's just not the case. The problem is she's underestimating everyone else. And she's not self-aware at all. She's not aware of anything that's going on. She doesn't have a good read for anything that's going on in the house, and it really shows. But yeah, Taylor's speech was iconic, and I am so glad that we got to see, her be able to stand up for herself, because when I'm seeing that speech, I think of her being in a position where last week when Daniel was coming at her full force, at that point, after the first week, she had kind of started to have a weird feeling about the people in the house, and that she might not be as well perceived. We had already seen some of that go down, especially with the first time she was nominated and the speech that was, given to her about that. But she still didn't really understand what everything was about. And at that point, she basically had kind of, in her mind anyway, had died down just a little bit because Paloma was gone, and Paloma was kind of the cause of that. But when Daniel just came at her, she was not expecting that. Not only did she think that Daniel and Nicole were genuinely her friends and liked her, she had no idea what their true opinion was, and she was just genuinely trying to help Nicole and be encouraging to Nicole. and she was stuck in that position where she was so thrown off, she didn't have an opportunity to 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 defend herself. She didn't know what she was defending herself against. And so, and even then we see her standing there next to Nicole and saying, "I'm sorry, I understand." Like, it angered me so bad because how much of a childlike she was being spoken to, like a child who was honestly being poorly mistreated by their parent. And it was just incredibly challenging to watch, right? So seeing her now where she gets to speak up and finally defend herself against to Nicole, right? Now, Daniel might have done more damage in that whole ordeal, but Nicole was basically the one that I feel like that was even a more demeaning conversation. The fact that she got her to the point where she felt she had to be like, "Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ma'am." Yet, like, that was just pathetic. That not pathetic on Taylor's part, but pathetic on Nicole's part that she would get her to that point. And so seeing this whole flip where Nicole's able to come out and just basically rip into her, or sorry, Taylor, and just be like, "You're an idiot. You really thought you had the numbers, and you don't." And everyone has seen what has gone on, and you have basically, you pissed everyone off in this house. No one wants to be here with you. And it was a beautiful speech. And in the end, we saw that, like I said earlier, I did keep a running tally of all the votes to evict Taylor. I didn't bother with the votes to evict Nicole because I figured, it'd probably be a slight advantage for Nicole, and she would go out. So I just only cared about the people that voted out Taylor. And those people were Daniel. And that's it. So we see Nicole gets evicted 9-1. And we get her out with Julie, and that was a funny conversation because she goes, okay, stay right there. We gotta go to commercial. We'll be right back. And so she starts kind of. It's funny because the camera pans in on Nicole, and she Julie starts talking to her, and you can't hear anything. So it just goes from she's looking over at Julie, and she's like. And I turned to my wife and I'm like, "Did you see that?" And I had to rewind it because she missed it. I'm like, literally, that was the face of someone that just got told that I'm about to destroy you. And and it wasn't as big of a destruction as I was hoping for. The eviction interviews, I don't watch the extended ones. I was wrong when I said they were on TikTok, unless they were on TikTok and they moved it, but I did catch it. She said the extended interview is going to be on Instagram. I'll probably go ahead and check those out because I'm curious to see if she goes kind of digs in a little more. But there are several other outlets that are going to be interviewing her first thing in the morning and are going to be getting into it. Hi, Mona. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining the stream. And hi, Robbie. Thanks for joining in. Just now checking everything. But there's going to be plenty of outlets tomorrow that are going to rip into her. But Julie doesn't really do a whole lot of that anymore, at least not on the live show. And that's what everyone's been talking about this whole time is, I can't wait to see Julie rip in. And I'm like, she's not. Those post-episode interviews, again, they should be they should be a little more saucy than they are. But I think they're just too afraid that they can't contain it if they let it go too far out of hand. Maybe Julie's just like, look, I don't want to deal with the confrontation, which, fair enough, I guess, but that is kind of part of being the host. I think Julie gets too much of a bad rap, personally. I know that that's an unpopular opinion. I'm not saying she's the best or could be the best. I'm not saying she's the best in this type of hosting gig. I'm not even saying that she's the best as far as the Big Brother host. I do think that Arissa probably is a lot better, but I do think she gets a little bit of a bad rap, personally. But that's one thing, is she probably just doesn't want to deal with the confrontation of it anymore, and which I can understand, but that is part of what your role is, right? Is to ask those hard. I mean, she's a journalist, so why all of a sudden it's difficult for her to get some of those tougher questions? I don't know, but we really should be having them asked on TV, based on, not on the extended thing where you go somewhere else to watch this. We're not going to have it in prime time, right? They need to make more room. Again, you need to have a 2-hour episode. They just need more time to reflect on everything. But they come back and they start talking, and she's like, you were fighting till the end. Are you surprised? She's like, oh, I'm not surprised. I knew it was going to happen. She's like, who do you think was behind it? She says she thinks that Monty was behind the whole thing. And she tells her, well, since you're not in jury, and I don't know, I didn't quite catch what Nicole tried to cut in there. If she said, oh, I'm not on jury, or if she started to say, oh, I'm on jury, and then was instantly like, oh, crap. I like to think that it was, I think both versions are good. I think that her believing that her being super hopeful and believing that she's probably going to make jury for whatever reason, I don't know, but the potential of her thinking that, and then Julie saying, since you're not on jury, let me spoil everything for you. I think that's a funny scenario. I also think that her interpreting that Julie just said, well, you're in jury now, is also a very funny scenario. But both options are a big turnaround for her. But anyway, she's like, well, since you're not in the jury, I can actually tell you what happened, right? And so she brings on screen the leftovers, and she said, this group formed the night before Amira left because they saw that there was a bigger side of the house that was taking on a larger role, and that they were making all the decisions, and they didn't want that. So they wanted to be in control. They wanted to do what's best for their game. And they also were tired of the mistreatment of Taylor in the house, and instantly doesn't even skip a beat, just goes from like, okay, yeah, to just anger. You can see it all over her face, and it was really, really funny to watch. I imagine, I try and imagine what these people's family members and friends are going to like are thinking of. Oh crap, like how are we going to tell them that the entire country thinks this person is a bully or racist or sexist or harassing? Like the entire country hates you, basically. And the position that those loved ones are in, whenever they get to that point, because they're going to and I don't know, I've not heard a testimonial from someone recently that had been a part of a problematic cast, who they themselves were very problematic, and talked about the perspective that they received. I mean, the closest thing that I can think of is when Mickey won 21, and at the end he wins, and he goes straight to his mom. He's like, I'm not a racist. She's like, oh, I know. Like, that's the closest thing I can think of. But so there obviously are some that will completely disregard what is shown on the episode and what's on the feeds and the actual facts, and pretend, right? Which, again, if it's someone that's close to you, it's hard. You don't want to just completely toss them away. That's not what you should do. But you have to find a way to also realize, like, yeah, that behavior isn't good. But I still love you, and so I'm always curious to see people that are in that position, that do see some of the stuff that went on, and be like, yeah, my person definitely has said a few challenging things, But and try and relay that to them and be able to talk to them in a way that's like, so the whole country hates you, and here's why. And I kind of agree. You were kind of a bad person. It's just, it's I can't imagine being in that position, and that's another reason why it's just like it's hard to imagine why some people go on, because you're gonna get tossed into that. It's again, it's the human zoo. You put enough people in there, and people think. That's why I say you can't judge people in their worst moment in this house for the most part. At least that's what I try not to do, because as bad as they can be, you just don't know, how you just don't know how everything is going to affect you once you get in that house. And so it can really turn people that may not really behave that way into someone that does. But it's from what I believe is that it just kind of amplifies what's already there. So while I don't feel like it's the best intentions to completely judge them, you also have to recognize that those are their true colors showing, and there's got to be a middle ground there. But yeah, and so we end the night with hearing where Taylor is going to go, and she decides to. She's told that she can pick any team, and I didn't think about it too much, but it did kind of cross my mind earlier today. I'm like, I wonder how it would work. Like, can she choose to go with Monty, Joseph, and Terrence? And she could. Julie says, you're allowed to pick any group that is existing. Yes, even the one that are the group of three. And so she's like, well, since Terrence went with the guys last week, I guess I'll have to go with the girls and go with Alyssa. And you hear Alyssa screaming and super excited. And then he's like, oh, yay, great. And she just gets her over there. And you could tell Indy was not happy. So that was fun. And then we cut to Julie. I'll take a sip. We cut to Julie. And she's saying, good night, everyone. Love one another. All that fun stuff. And we get back. And, actually, before we get to this point, before we even talk to Nicole, we see, after she comes out and then it flashes back in the house, watch her memory picture go gray. And Daniel's like, you can't split the check. You guys, you can't split the check. And, you're going to have to start playing your own game. You're going to start playing your own game. I hate that. I say that a lot, but I hate that more than anything in this show is when people come in and they're like, just because you're part of an alliance doesn't mean you're not playing for yourself. Now, yes, there are some that don't. There are some that all they care about is getting the alliance to the end. And they will even say in their DRs, if I don't win, I'm fine as long as this person wins, right? No, you're not going to hear me say anything like that until I'm in jury. I'm not fine with anyone winning but myself. And then when I get to jury and I come to terms with the fact that I've lost my shot at $750,000 and try and process that, then somehow I will try and muster up a way to grieve that loss that I already given myself in my head and try and find someone that I can deem worthy more so than myself to win. It shouldn't be, oh, I want, if I can't win, I want this other person to win. I get it. You get in this house and you develop these relationships with people and these bonds and you feel truly connected to them. They feel like family. I get all that. But again, you should not be okay with anyone winning besides yourself. And if you don't win and you make it, either whether it's pre-jury or post-jury, you get out of that house, then you can decide, well, who am I okay with winning now, right? Now that I don't have the shot, then you can look at who you're okay with winning. But until you get to that point, there's no reason you should be worried about, anyone else and whether or not you're okay with them winning. But just because there are some people that are like that does not mean that just because you're an alliance and you're trying to help your alliance get to the end doesn't mean that you're not playing your own game. Because guess what? To get to the end, you have to be on the positive side of numbers, not the negative. You have to be in the greater than, not the less than. So yes, part of getting to the end and playing for yourself to get to the end is to collect as many numbers on your side so you can guarantee that the vote stays with you, regardless of whether you're HOH or not. Make sure that you're on the positive side of the vote. And I'm so, again, he keeps saying stuff where it's like, it's so infuriating. You should know this. You are a self-proclaimed super fan. There's no part of you that should be looking at an alliance just because it's not what was best for your game doesn't mean that they're not playing what's best for their game. And I get it. You're angry and you're trying to make it look like, well, you guys screwed up and that going with you and going along with what you want is what's best for everyone else's game. You also, sometimes you just have to be like, good shot, and it's hard. It's really hard. But you can't, you can do whatever you want, but the notion of, you're playing with a group of people, you're trying to project yourself further along, and you're utilizing other members of the house to do that, because if you don't, how the heck are you supposed to get to the end? And then people are like, everyone just needs to play their own game and yada yada. So whatever. So we get from there to my personal favorite part of the episode. And it's, Julie says, good night, everyone. I'm JCM, Lord and Savior, and be kind to each other. And here's my, given her sermon. And she says that, she says, good night. They cut back to the kitchen, and we see everyone's celebrating. Everyone's happy. And Daniel is in one of the back bedrooms just fuming. He's like, and that's another reason why I'm just like, is he just going to Aubrey himself the rest of next week? Because he's just sitting there like, just buy my plane ticket now. Get me out of this house. Everyone, steamrolls are terrible. And they keep flashing back. I loved it. I loved it so much. They go from him moping and sobbing and crying and get me out of here. I don't even want to stay here anymore. Just buy my plane ticket. This season sucks. And they're in there cheering. He's like, this season sucks. I can't stand being here. Buy my plane ticket. Woo! Yeah! Woo! Yeah! Yeah, let's go! Yeah! This is why, fans, I hate this for fans, because now they're going to look at this season and fans are going to be so mad because this season is sucks so bad, and then it cuts. And then I loved it. That's another thing to me that just feels so old school BB, right? Because we have these people that are actually having drama. They're having fallouts. And one thing about this season that I will give, and this, I was watching Tom's live stream before we hopped on, or before the episode started, and he said that he really thinks that this is going to be one of the best seasons of all. And I can definitely see where he's coming from with that, because one thing about this season is that the majority of people here are here to play. Now, we get that every season where there's just a few kind of stragglers or floaters, and then there's alliances and people are making moves, but or they're talking game, but they're not making any moves. Season 20 was the last time that people were really actually going hard, making moves, going against the grain, and the other side was so confused as to what was happening, they kept trying to bounce back over and over and just couldn't. Was it a bit of a steamroll? It was, but it was still a fight, and it was a beautiful fight that it was a true divide. There was two sides of the house, and one just kept swallowing the other one up. And that's not exactly what we have here, but this is a lot better, right? And it's just so, it feels, from at least what I remember, right, of watching the earlier seasons for So Young, this is how I remember old school BB being, where you have this, the people on the outside used to come together. They used to form a group. They used to realize, we're on the outs, we got to make a change, right? What happened in BB7 All-Stars? Erica comes to Janelle and she's like, did Will invite you into Chilltown and say you were part of Chilltown and all this stuff? And they realize that they're on the outs. So what do? They take out the snake. They kill it. Now, did they still end up losing? Yeah, because they were too late. But that's just one example of, we used to get this, and we're not getting it anymore. And now we're finally starting to get people fighting back and pushing back, and it's absolutely great to see. I'm loving everything we're getting so far. Again, this upcoming week might be somewhat boring. I want to see the leftovers stay intact. I do generally hate steamroll-y type seasons, but I do want to see them stay intact, just because most of them are all underdogs, and I really want to see the underdog come on top. But it is going to be a little bit challenging to stay awake if everything happens as predictable. And so I am totally, to be quite honest, from a leftovers perspective, they need to win. They need to stay in power, and I hope they do. From an interesting week perspective, I'm kind of hoping that they don't, and that someone else is able to take control. And maybe I don't know who I'd be okay with them taking out. Probably I like Monty, but I would probably I don't know, it's tough. I like Joseph a lot. I like Michael and Brittany a lot. I like Taylor a lot. I like Kyle a lot. But I mean, Kyle is if Kyle got taken out, I wouldn't be too disappointed. Like, if we kept Monty over Kyle, just based on the events of the last couple days, that's the best I can do to make it fair, because those are the only two guys that I'd be willing to have taken out. Other than that, I can't foresee something that would cause a whole lot of excitement this week. But we thought that with Turner, so and that didn't that surprise us? I didn't see that coming. Most people did not. In fact, I would go as far to say that no one saw that coming. And if you say you did, you're a liar. But yeah, that's the episode tonight. So we'll come back. We didn't get to see the pre HOH comp. The start of it tonight, which is annoying. But we'll find that out here in the next couple hours. And so we'll see what happens, and if this week is going to be a bit of a sleeper week, or something's actually going to happen, and who knows, we might get surprised. All right, so let's go over some of the questions we have in the live chat. And once we go through these questions, we're going to be wrapping up the stream. So if any of you guys have any more questions, make sure to drop them in the comments or in the live chat, and we'll go over those real quick. All right. Maureen says, I came very close to applying for BB10. Let's go back. I came very close to applying for BB10. Had the application, decided not to fill it out, and backed out at the last minute. Don't think I would have been able to put up with Jerry. Yeah, Jerry was an interesting one. He was that whole season was again, Dan's my favorite player. season 10 is one of my favorite seasons. I really need to go back and rewatch it again. I usually rewatch. There's a like 2 or 3 different channels on YouTube that pass like or post really condensed versions of the season, and so every once in a while I'll go back and watch it. But I really need to just go back. I might try and do that on off season, and we might even incorporate that. I will say I've thought about doing that in between seasons, trying to do some sort of watch along where we go back and rewatch older seasons, almost kind of like a book club for watching BB, where we could watch old seasons, watch the first, watch it as a week, right? Do a weekly episode and catch up on the entire week of that. So, covering the Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the whole week in one episode. Excuse me. I thought about doing that. And if we do, 10 will probably be one of the first ones that we do, because that could be, I think that could be a lot of fun. I have to get used to, and you probably noticed on some of the Sunday and Wednesday episodes, I struggle a little bit covering stuff when knowing what's going to happen anyway. But we'll hone that in throughout the rest of this season, and we might do that in the postseasons after Survivor, ends, because we'll be covering Survivor, or maybe not. Maybe we'll cover it alongside. Who knows? But we'll figure that out. But yeah, that's something I thought about. But yeah, that whole cast was a different breed. Yeah, Robbie says she was a detective. I know it really makes you wonder just how many. Well, again, no, whatever. Yeah, she was a detective. Alyssa was 24. Said hi to Mona. And then Mona said, Robbie says, and she thought there was going to be a battle back. Yeah, she did. I heard her talking about it. I don't know why she would think. I mean, I guess she's probably thinking of like a collective of the 4, because they have done that before. But even if they had contemplated that, which they have, pretty much some of the house guests have been saying, and house guests from the past couple seasons have said that basically no battle back has even been considered because of COVID. Once they leave the Big Brother bubble, even if they are going to like a hotel or something, it's hard to contain that as easily as it is whenever they come into the house initially. So that on its own is preventing it. And with Paloma not being an option to come back, I mean, I guess she thinks it'd be a 3-person battle back. She was hoping for it, but normally, and that's the other side too, is jury ends at the first 5. So there would still have to be one more vote one more eviction before that could even be a thing. So yeah, she was hoping for it, but I truly hope we don't have any more of those. Once you're out, and the house has already made their decision, and that's how it should stay. Mona says he will throw a tantrum. He had been such a disappointment. Yeah, I mean, he's already starting to. So I could see him just kind of honestly just lay down and die. I mean, he'll run his mouth a lot, but I think it'll be more in a self-destructive type of way. I don't think he's really going to do it in attempting to be constructive. I don't think he's going to do it in a way that he intends to actually use to move forward. Robbie says, and all the whining about people not being honest with them and all the lies that they forget that, again, it's Big Brother. That's what this game is about. You're putting 16 people in a human zoo. Some people are going to say, I want to play an honest game. That's great. If you're able to do that and do it in a way that, people trust you, you build that trust, that's great. But not everyone has to do that. And it is a game. So if someone chooses not to do it, you can't, in my opinion, you can't really judge their overall character based on the way they saw fit to play the game the best. Robbie says also, but do you think it will still be good after they get Daniel out? Do you think there will be any confrontations that will make? Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to be. We've already started to see the cracks in the 7, and that's the only thing that makes me think that we do have a little bit of potential. Is if it starts to crack a little bit quicker than what we're expecting. The only thing that, like I said earlier, I could really see is if the leftovers put up a strong resistance against Kyle and Alyssa, or not even necessarily that, but if they start to become a little scared, so they start to try and think, well, maybe we should try and split that up. That could turn into something. I think that, honestly, I think he would fight. I feel confident in saying that in the end he would probably give in and just tell her, he did everything he could. This alliance is going to crack, and we've already started. Was it last night when we were talking about, Brittany, Michael, and Taylor basically developing their own 3-person onion part of that alliance, compared to the Pound for the other 4 that have their own inner onion. So this is going to break apart at least once it gets to 7, and I don't think it's going to get to 7. They really don't trust each other, and Kyle has kind of been jumping on the Michael and Brittany ship because he's kind of realizing that Monty and Joe, they're really tight and they're doing their thing, and he knows that he's on the outside of that. So if he feels like it's gonna be more benefit, I mean, honestly, if I was him, I would get those guys out before you went and got Jasmine and Indy out. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to keep them around over them, because Indy hasn't really won anything. Jasmine has, but it was a pie eating contest. And she herself mentioned that she thought she would do good in that. It definitely could split apart very, very quickly, and even this week could go awry. I do think it's more likely that this week is boring and that they just kind of truck on through. And I think they all too, even with the slight divides in the leftovers, I think that they all, if Taylor reiterates, look, it is too, it's causing me too much anxiety just having Daniel here. I think for the most part, they would all pretty much be fairly understanding of that, and be like, yeah, he's not an asset to any of our games. He's only going to cause more issues. And as an extra part of that on a human level, with Taylor, it's not good for her mental health. So let's help keep one of our soldiers strong and one of our teammates strong, and not have to have her constantly be stuck in this environment. So yeah, I do think there's a lot of hope. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. We got about 10 more minutes here, and then we need to wrap this up within the next 10 minutes. Happy One says, I hope Daniel doesn't yell at Taylor again. I hope so. Again, I think he's just gonna lay down and die. But he could get feisty and he could try and cause an uproar. He might try and his mindset might switch entirely. He says that his favorite players are Will and Dan Giesling. But he might try and go an evil Dick style game and just try and piss everyone off on the way out. So who knows? He might. Robbie says, I think if he does yell at her, some of the others, oh, for sure. I would, if they don't, I would be beyond shocked. I think that if he said anything, I think that we could even risk seeing a potential physical confrontation between Joseph and Daniel. And Monty could get involved. I don't know that I could see Kyle getting involved. Turner would speak up. Turner has very quickly done a full 180 when it came to Taylor, and he does seem like he may not be the most physically intimidating, but if Daniel started coming at her, I could easily see Turner and Joseph both puffing out their chests and pushing him back. I could definitely see that. Mona says, I want them to execute good gameplay. They don't have to be nicey nice. Just play a strong game. No personal attacks, but tough gaming is what we want. I want Taylor to show if she has game. Exactly. And I kind of feel the same way. That's kind of what I was saying the other night is, she's been stuck in a really bad position. I want to see her get out of it. And I'm happy that she is starting to get out of it. But for me personally, to say that she's one of my favorites, I'm going to have to see a little bit more from her personally, on a game level. She's definitely, making, good calls and making good moves. But just a little bit more of a push. But tonight was with that speech, that was definitely a step in the right direction. She's showing that she's here to play. She's confident. And, I think she has the potential. I really do. I need to see a little bit more, from a gameplay aspect. But I'm super happy to see that she's starting to be able to bounce back, from where she's been at. Happy One says, I hope so. I hope so too. Robbie says, I would like to see Michael Joseph Taylor Turner for Final Four. Michael Joseph Taylor Turner. Yeah, that could be. I would like that. There are several combinations of people that I'm liking. But yeah, Joseph, like I said, personality wise is so far my favorite. Michael, from a game perspective, is probably still my favorite. He's really got my that's the basket I got all my eggs in, from a game perspective. Yeah, seeing Taylor at the end would be very poetic. And Turner, yeah, I could definitely see Turner getting there. And that'd be a fun way to go. Mona says, I want to see the ones who play hard in the Final Four. If I don't see good strategy and manipulation, I don't care who flops into the win. Yeah, and we've seen that too. People just kind of get pulled along and wind up. And there's been a few that have won just from being in that position because they didn't anger people as much as the person sitting next to them. Yeah, Mona says, I root for whoever plays well. That's how I am. I try not to be biased, but I do tend to stick to the people that I like more. From a, like the game decisions they're making more. And then Robbie says, you're right, Mona, the further along the season goes and we see the gameplay, I might change my mind on the Final Four. Yeah. And that's how this game evolves and adapts. From it, for me, it almost never fails. The people that I initially liked the first week, a few weeks in, I'm already over. Mona says, I hope they develop and evolve as gamers. Yep, me too. I really do. So yeah, well, that was a really good stream. I'm glad all of you were here, and joined in. If you are happening to just now join in, here in just a couple minutes, this is going to post. So, wait just a minute or two, come back and you can start it over from the beginning. And listen to everything we talked about tonight. If you're new here and if you're not new here, or you are new here and you're here, and you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, if you enjoyed the video and the stream, because it really does help me out a lot. And if you are new to the community and you found us tonight, and you're enjoying this content and what we're doing here, check out some of our other videos and make sure to hit that subscribe button, because we're going to be here. We're not going away. We're going to be here for the rest of the season and a long time after that. So like I always say, I'm having a lot of fun with you guys. Yeah, you're welcome, Mona. And anyone that hasn't already followed me on Twitter, that's where I give all of my updates, at DAC Chats. So go ahead and if you haven't already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. And every time I have any channel updates or anything like that, that's where they'll go. So, all right, guys. Well, like I said, it's been a fun night. Thanks for sticking through. And we will catch you guys if nothing eventful happens, and we don't do a stream watch along, which we do need to do another one here pretty soon. But if we don't have one of those coming up soon, then we'll catch you guys Sunday night.